fill in here for Clint this week. I'm Tate Mendoza, for those of you
We
that don't
finally
know
got
me.
a hard worker and someone that, my back's been hurting from carrying the show for 5 years, so I'm glad we finally got somebody else in here that can lead the way.
That's, Brian made the joke as we're riding back after lunch. He says, you know what's happening here? I said, what's that? He said, Clint's just grooming the next one to pawn this off.
That's for sure. That is for sure.
Anyway,
conveniently has a meeting today.
Yeah, we're missing Clint today, but hopefully I can remember everything. I'm kind of getting the crash course, and I know Coach Bentley can help me walk through this as well. First, just wanted to mention our sponsors. That'd be University of Arkansas Rich Mountain, Mena Insurance, PT and the gang down there. You got Sterling Machinery, and then you have the group there, Union Bank. We want to say big thanks to our sponsors that helped this program go on. Obviously, without them, this couldn't work, couldn't happen, and couldn't be funded more than likely. So, well, Coach, like I said, I last night watched a few of these and kind of how it went, trying to get an idea of what was going on. So, but this last week was a fun one, obviously in my household.
Yeah.
The dynamic of having my brother being the head coach at Lincoln, for those that don't know that.
I told them we might as well just bring Reed in here and put him in the middle of us, just, all that. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun dynamic. Of course, me and Reed are good friends, and so we talk about this game. We hadn't talked about it much since we got him last year. I know that's something, again, it's personal because he's a former Bearcat, and because we're so close of friends, and I'm sure it was a real fun game to watch. It wasn't always fun to coach, but man, what an atmosphere, and someone mentioned to me, we talked about it, it felt like a playoff type game. I mean, they had a great crowd, and of course we traveled and filled up our stands as well, and it was a great Friday night of football.
I was glad to see the crowd, and that was actually a point I had here was, I kind of wanted you to explain maybe to everybody watching how that game came about. That was not a game that was supposed to happen. That game happened, one, because Reed had a late cancel for a non-con, and I think you did as well.
Yeah, and so he had a late cancel last year, and then we did too, with teams dropping us left and right with 8-man and everything else. And of course, he was looking for a matchup, and we were too. And both the pro teams and schools and kids and programs are kind of similar in that facet. And of course, me and Reed kind of thought it would be a good deal to have both of us, be a good matchup of coaching staffs and everything else. Good for both schools to get that game experience. So it was a really neat deal, and it won't continue going forward. I mean, it was just a 2-year deal where they came down here last year, and then we went up there this year, and so it's been a fun series, and one that ended up 1-1, and I think both programs got better for it.
I would agree, and I think you got him last year. He was able to get you this year. I think that's honestly, in the perfect world, that's the way it needed to go. Obviously, if it goes 2-0 our way, we're better off, but the other dynamic I want to talk about there was I know that's not a traditional out-of-conference game you want to have, but is there a benefit to that come playoff time with that long bus trip that you guys had? Because yes, you have had long bus trips and playoffs here lately, but you got sophomores on this team that are big contributors, and that routine of the day of how, hey, we're going to leave at noon, 1 o'clock, we're going to stop and eat lunch.
Right.
Do you see the benefit in that?
And that was another big part of it too, and I know Reed felt the same way. It's a long trip. It kind of gets you that way. Your first long trip isn't that playoff game, kind of like what you're talking about. So even some of our juniors, and it prepares you for the rest of your trips come conference. So yeah, that was a huge factor. And like I said, we left at I think 1:15 and stopped off in Fort Smith, and there's a certain way you have to carry yourself throughout that day to get yourself ready for that game. And I thought our kids did a pretty good job of that. We stopped off at Fort Smith and had we ate some lunch, and then we had a walk through there at the park, and we felt really locked in and focused at that point. And again, yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's something you do in preparation for something that's coming a little bit bigger down the road.
And that was my understanding was from you and Reed was junior high is where it's hard when you do these. Like senior high, like it's nice to kind of mix in that longer game to prep that side.
Right.
But the junior high side's where it is hard. And you guys addressed that by moving it to Tuesday night and those kind of things. But, and selfishly, when I heard this was happening 2 years ago, I got excited because it was neat because there was the dynamic of you coaching Reed even back. You were the DC, I believe, when Reed was in high school. So it was just a neat dynamic. And, on top of that, it was a great game for 2 years. I think, 7 points combined?
Yeah.
You got him by 4 last year, and he was able to get by 3 this year.
So it was a close game either way, and a great game. And again, those coaches did a great job over there, and they were well prepared. And I feel like a close loss in this situation is always on the head coach, and
Right.
so there's definitely some things for me that I would have done better, and I think early on in the game I didn't do a great job, but I'm really proud of our kids. Sometimes they got to overcome their coaching, so they did a really good job of bouncing back, because there was a lot of different scenarios where they could have gave up, or we're down 3 possessions with 8 minutes to go, and so battling back and still giving ourselves to win that a chance to win that game twice. At the end was a real testament to our kids.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I made the comment on air I did the radio with Philip this week, and I made the comment on air that the mistakes we made, the mistakes Lincoln made, knowing you two the way I do, I would not have wanted to play for you guys come Monday, because there was some learning opportunities there, some mistakes that would be corrected this week, I'm sure. And that was one thing that was neat too, is the dynamic of, you guys both coach your boys pretty similar. It's hard, it's tough, but it's love as well.
That's right. Yeah.
So, but anyway, this week, Coach Lincoln, you guys were able to get off to a quick start. I mean, 14-0 about 2.5 minutes into the game.
And I never felt good about it. I was sitting there, and again, we'll see on the clips here in just a minute. We get out and get a big play out of our third play of the game, and come back and take a turnover to the house and get a great start. But again, I knew that was going to be a long haul. I was proud of our start, because that's something we struggled with, is coming out to a strong start, especially offensively. So I was really proud of how we were able to do that. But then we still didn't continue to finish strong in those following possessions. But I knew, again, I never felt comfortable after that lead. I felt like we were still going to be in for a dogfight, and it definitely was.
From the fan perspective, anytime you get the halfback pass for a touchdown there out of Michael, that's something I know you prepared all week. Y'all run it multiple times every day, and that's something you put so much time into. You want it to hit, and fortunately for us, it does hit.
Yeah.
For a quick score there. What's the importance of that? I mean, you practice something like that all week, and you want it to work, and it does.
I mean that was a play call that was scripted, and it wasn't called on the run there. We knew all week that at that moment we were going to run that play, and like you said, running it in practice, seeing it in practice, and it working in practice is a completely different thing than going out there on a Friday night and making it happen. So super satisfying when it kind of plays to fruition like that. And like I said, especially we kind of harped on a quicker start, because that's something we did not do in our first 2 games. And again, it's one of those satisfying moments as a coach when you put a lot of time and effort into something and you feel good about it. There's a certain reason we called that play, right? So that reaffirmation that it was a good call, and the kids executed it was
and the hope is he didn't overthrow him by 2
yards. Exactly. Or underthrow, panic and get underthrown or whatever, like can go wrong in that situation.
Well, and you back that up with a pick 6 by Baber, who had a huge game defensively. 3 picks in one game. That's a heck of a night for you.
Yeah, I mean, about that kid. I mean, he's been so resilient all the way. I mean, he's a true Bearcat. I mean, I give his example about his journey. Every kid's journey is different. For him, he started for us last year at the beginning of the season because of some different reasons, and then he ended up, another kid came up and ended up starting in front of him, but he never pouted, he never hung his head, he kept working, and his opportunity came about mid-season, and when it came, he never let it go, and he became a really good football player for us. And again, you just can't coach his effort, his intensity. He's a great tackler. I mean, he's not a big kid, obviously, everybody knows that, but again, he plays hard, he plays fast, he plays physical, and I don't even know if he's ever had 1 interception in a game. I mean, to have 3 is pretty cool, and especially to take one to the house and get one in the end zone is a pretty cool testament for him.
Just to touch on that a little bit further, a kid like that in your program is critical, especially a school the size of Mena. A kid that might not be ready as a sophomore, got thrown into action a little bit as a junior, and then by senior, he's ready to go. Relating it to business, I mean, you never know what customers are going to turn into, so you never know what kids are going to turn into as well.
Yeah.
So, a school, like I said, like Mena, it's critical to keep those kids in your program, 100%. Keep them interested, and it sounds like he's a kid that loves being a Bearcat, and it was neat to see him get rewarded with 3 interceptions from all the hard work.
And he's had going back to last year, he's had good things, and he had some tough moments against Center Point, but at the end of the game, again, it kind of a testament to his character. Got a few balls caught on him at Center Point, and but at the end of the game, who made the pass deflection and pushed the kid out of bounds to kind of seal that game for us, it was him. So, a very resilient kid and does a great job.
Well, again, like I said, fun start to the game. I mean, 14-0 right out the chute. Offensively, sputtered a little bit, probably mid through the first until the end of the second quarter when we hit the long pass. Dax, I think it was Michael there.
Yeah,
or no, Sean.
it was actually Caleb Cox.
Caleb Cox, there we go. About a 50-yarder to kind of get us a little bit of momentum going into half. Like I said, offensively, we sputtered a little bit in the middle of those quarters. Lincoln was able to answer and come back, 20, I think they were up 20-14 before that. And like I said, it was as fast a start as you had. We had a little bit of a lull there, first quarter into second quarter.
It felt like the longest first quarter known to man. I mean, that went back and forth because there was a lot of big plays. There was a long drive here and there. And
the officiating didn't help at times. It didn't seem like.
Yeah, it was an interesting situation on that end. But you know, that the way the first half played out, you know, for us to end in a situation, like I said, we'll see it here on the clips here in a minute, but to finish with a touchdown really gave us that momentum and drive to come in and know, hey, we're right back in this. As bad as we've played at this moment, you know, in between these quarters, you know, we're still right here in it and giving ourselves a chance to be competitive. Because again, Lincoln's a really good team. I think they're going to win 7 or 8 ball games at minimum. Again, they're coached very well. They've got seniors in positions that are making a lot of plays for them. Of course, that running back, I feel like number 3 there for him. I don't know that we're going to see many more players better than him all year. I think that quarterback is the best passing quarterback we'll see all year. So a lot of playmakers on the field for them, and defensively they're put in positions to make plays. So good football team, and you know, for us to be in a position like we were, again, you want to win, but again, I think it'll be a good experience.
Sure. I'm not exactly sure how this goes at times.
Yeah, we'll break into these clips here, and we'll start going through these highlights. We've hit on a couple of them. So what we have early on is what we just talked about, was our halfback pass, and of course Michael has played some quarterback for us in the past, and he's our catcher on our baseball team, and so he's got a good arm on him. And again, this wasn't called just in the heat of the moment. It's a play that we knew would have a chance to hit big, and the fact that we were able to, you know, and Michael gets a little bit of a rush there. Number 3 we talked about is also
good. I didn't notice that during the game, Coach. Pretty good rush out of Cale Jones.
Yeah, and he's a good player, obviously, on defense too. And Michael stands in there and delivers the throw. And Elijah Smith does a good job adjusting, because he does have to come back to a little bit. And Elijah Smith is a good athlete across the board. And again, just a fun way to start the game. And again, we challenged them with that first possession to come out and really make something happen. And before this, we had 2 pretty good runs as well too. Again, you see it's first down there, so we got a first down off of our first 2 plays, and we're happy and excited with the start. And then to follow that up with you know, Jackson, what we were talking about here, just a really good job. And one thing too about Jackson is he does a good job with his fundamentals. So ball's overthrown a little bit. We're doing a good job in coverage. We got guys all over it. And Jackson just finds the ball, and instead of just being satisfied with the pick, he's able to find it. I think I said his name like 150 times after he did this, because I was just so excited for him to have that moment. Was really cool. So like you said, a really hot start here, starting out 14-0, and then it's a while back. We falter out a little bit. You know, in our next possession, I think they went down and scored right after that. And then we faltered out in that third left, and then we fumbled the ball away. And that's something we got to do better at. You know, we're losing the ball and not completing possessions in crucial moments at the start of each half, and so we have to be better at that. And so here's Michael Sullivan here, just a great run, really good vision, read through, you know, pulling through and running one of our base money plays here, just a little bit of a counter type play. And really good job by Carter Cossey at left tackle, just kind of going off into up to his backer, and nice little combo block, kind of helping out Kyler there, and then jumping off into the backer and sealing him off, just doing a really, really good job. And Michael with some great vision. So I put this on there because, you know, he just running really hard and did a good job there.
That was the thought I had about Michael, was, you know, he ran better than I think the yards he accumulated, I felt like.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, he's a hard runner. He's got good vision, and Brody does too. We're pretty lucky. I kind of called him Thunder and Thunder the other day because they're both similar. They're hard runners, have had good vision, and made some big plays for us.
Both kids like contact.
Yeah, and they're both very deeply involved in it. You know, they're able to complement each other. We're able to be more effective with them because we counter them. You know, whereas we could, you know, each one of them could get 20, 25 carries a game, absolutely.
Sure.
but you know, being able to, the fact that they can counter off each other is pretty nice. You know, one thing Coach Arnold does a really good job of is emphasizing turnovers. We do a turnover circuit every week, and one of them is tip drill. And tip drill goes back to the days of Coach Bunch and all those. I remember doing those. Pass ball, Oski, right?
Oski drills.
And so again, Jackson just doing a great job. That ball's tipped up in the air, and he sees it, and he jumps up for it, goes to it, and holds on to it, getting tackling hard. So another big turnover here. Unfortunately, I think right after this, we turned the ball over. Right. So that was a tough, you know, that's stuff that we can't do. You know, we have like 10 kind of ways that we have to win consistently. None of them have to do with speed, strength, or athleticism or any of that. And one of them is create turnovers, but limit turnovers. Well, I think we created, you know, 5 turnovers, you know, the other night. But unfortunately, we also gave the ball away several times. So
I didn't realize it was 5. That's when you're able to do that as a team. You expect.
I think we had 4 picks and 1 fumble at the end there. So again, good job by Jackson being a ball hawk, finding the ball, and you know, that was a big play at that moment because they had went down and scored on their first possession and kind of got a little bit of momentum back, and so
that's when it turned into that dogfight.
It was kind of going back and forth, and then they got some momentum there at the end. I believe we're in the second half here, and again, just another good job by Jackson, just finding the ball. Ball's thrown up. Good pass rush there. Zay Day was back. He's been out for a couple games, and
that's a big one to get back in that defense.
Yeah. So you see Zay kind of gives him a rush, and he's throwing off his back foot and going backwards there. And someone else is in there too. I think it's Jimmy Glenn, good young sophomore that gets in there.
Jimmy had a good night, I felt like.
Yeah, overall he had a really good night and had a big pick at the end to give us a chance to win it. Again, Jackson goes and finds the ball and gets his what's it called, hat trick, I guess, when you get 3 goals. But
I explained that to Philip on the air. I said, you know what that is, right?
Yeah, it's a hat trick. So again, really good job by him, and another good, you know, way to keep us in the game. You know, find ways to keep us in the game, and I felt like we did that. That must have been that was actually still in the first half because this is the play right before half. This is the play before half to
get us back. I think we're down two touchdowns.
Yeah. Right now, I think it's 24-14, something like that, and so we're down 2 possessions, and just a really good job by. You know, I won't call Caleb out because he's actually supposed to sit this route, but we'll give it. It's one of those things, you know, when they shoot the 3 and you're like, no, don't do that. And then it swishes and you're like, oh, yes.
Sometimes better be lucky than good.
You can see right here, Tripp actually sits this route down. He's the inside receiver right in this area here. And so he sits it down because the safety's bailing. And Caleb, I think, decided he was going to take this risk, and Dax was okay with that. Dax made a really good throw and put it on the money. And then Caleb did a really, really good job of finding that ball, holding on to it as that ball's trying to get stripped out of him, and finding a way in a huge play right before half.
Yeah, pretty big benefit having a kid like Dax throw the ball too.
Yeah, no doubt. It's like I said, great footwork. He pushed off that back foot, followed through, and that right there, giving us that momentum right before half was a big play. Again, we kind of skipped through it, missing a lot here, but it's kind of back and forth. You know, third quarter wasn't always pretty for us in the first part of it, but this is where we start kind of making our comeback here a little bit because, like I said, about 8 minutes to go in the game, we're down, I think, 18 points. So
I had it 17, I think.
Yeah, 17, something like that.
Because that field goal was going to come into play, I felt like.
Yeah, and so, again, the fact that we shot ourselves in the foot. A lot of penalty yards. That's another one of our 10 ways that how do we win consistently. We got to limit penalties, and at halftime, I think we had 130 yards of penalties we give them, and part of that's on me. I felt like I could have done a better job of controlling everybody and all that. Obviously, we have several personal fouls, and people have been quick to remind me of that. But we've been very aware of that, and our kids know that. And what I tells the type of kids that we have, you know, they unbiasedly or unprompted have come to me and said, "Hey, coach, I'm going to be better about that. You know, I can't get that flag there. Or I can't do that." They own it, you know. And, so I've been pretty, but I'll say this on the flip side, and that's not justifying. I know we have to clean it up, and I know that's something that we can't do consistently, but I'm proud of the emotion our kids play with. I'm proud of the chip that we have on our shoulder because I don't think you come back from that game without that. So I would rather have to reel it in, than get that emotion out of them, even though it makes my hair turn gray a little bit, and you know, so.
I was going to exactly say that, Coach. I mean, I've always been a firm believer. You'd rather have kids, you got to try and calm down than try and get excited.
Yeah.
If you do a good job of reining them in when you need to, that's fine. But you want kids that are passionate
Yeah.
and they're fired up, they're ready to
Yeah.
go. That's what you want, I feel like.
Absolutely, and we have those kids, and like I said, our individual goals would manage our emotions, control it, manage it, play with emotion, manage the emotion. So,
Sure.
Good route here. It's a kind of a bubble and go a little bit. They kind of gotten us on a few bubbles and been pretty aggressive here. We weren't able to get much out of it, so Sean does a little bit of hitch up, giddy up, and um, really made that safety choose and a good throw here. A good back shoulder throw off away from the safety there, and Sean Sullivan does a good job. Sean had 10 catches, had another big night.
I was going to say I didn't know how much we wanted to point out individual kids, but
Yeah.
Sean's second half was very critical from the onside kick recovery to the touchdown catch right after the onside kick to that touchdown.
And then he had another big catch that got us down at the 1, I think. That,
Right.
Pushed us in the end zone. So.
Sean's second half was it was very, very key to us being in this ball game.
Yeah.
I felt like.
And again, this is really what kind of spurred the comeback and kind of got us back in the momentum there. It was just a really, really good job there by him and Dax. And good protection. Our pass pro was good all night. We had one breakdown, and what I love about our coaches too is Coach Dover says, hey, one of those interceptions and one of those hurries was on me. I called the wrong protection, and he owns it. And our kids know that we're never going to ask anything out of them that we're not going to do, and we're not going to ask them to take ownership when we don't either. And so
Sure.
I think Coach Dover's done a great job, and he owned that right there and made a great play call. Right, he made a great play call right here, and we get in the end zone. And what I liked about this too is after we score this, I think we're down still 3 possessions. I think this cut it. There's not a whole lot of celebration there. It's like, okay,
business as usual.
Business, yeah, we got to go. We're going to be excited about that. I know for me personally, I'm like, all right, good, let's go. We still got to get 2 more.
Sure.
And now we got to go get this onside. So
I was going to say, is that immediately after that touchdown where we recovered?
I hope it put it on there. If I don't, we'll come back to it. And I think it actually skipped because sometimes I have a hard time on some of these of these playlists.
Nugget, I've got my brother and then my brother-in-law Brad coaching as well. How you guys chop up film is one of the 8th wonders of the world.
Yeah,
how y'all work these computers.
So funny you said that, right? Good segue. The game was so long that the cameras died on the press boxes and whatnot. So we only have an end zone view of everything here. But I've got the onside actually on there right here. This is just a good play we have earlier. Good throw and catch. A big we go and score off of this here later on too. But a good job by Elijah Smith again, who had some big catches and had one at the end of the game that we thought would give us a chance, but unfortunately it was called incomplete there. So again, not the greatest view because it's the end zone version, but this was something else too, kind of like that halfback pass you're talking about. This is an onside. It kind of made me laugh. I meant to give Reed heck about this, but we got an onside right after halftime last year.
Yeah.
On him, and it was a big turning point for us because we were down at halftime last year against him, and I thought it was funny right after half again, he had his hands team up all tied up like, we're just going to kick it deep right here. But a good job by Haida. Again, I think one of the best kickers in the state to just
without a doubt
put it wherever he wants it. And again, you can't really see it, but Cody Coach has kind of taken over the kickoff team for us. He is Coach as we call him, and that's he did a really good job and had this onside kick in mind all week, and we practiced it several times. And again, it looks well, but practicing it and executing it's 2 different things, and really good job. Again, like you said, Sean getting on it, and really, really nice and exciting moment there for us. And again, that leads us to a couple other big plays. Right here.
I was just gonna say, I made mention to Philip on air that you could run that onside kick 10 more times and it might not be executed as perfectly as it was. Sean couldn't have caught that any better.
Yeah,
at 10 yards.
No doubt. And again, a good job here. This is right after, so we got to go capitalize off of it. So
sure, take advantage.
The frustration I have of us not capitalizing earlier in the game, man, we sure did it this time. So I'm hoping that parlays off as we go forward. So good throw and catch here by Dax. Good pass pro. Good pickup there by our running back as well. Mike there doing a good job picking up that blitzer. And Sean doing a great job adjusting, making a tough catch, getting down at the 1. And then we get down and Mike's able to put it in there. So again, really
forgotten Mike stole that one from
Yeah. They've given each other heck about that.
I'm sure that's a fun dynamic.
Again, a good job by Max Rocha there pulling around, and Brody Peters is out there doing a good job sealing the edge and making sure his guy doesn't get involved. And the lineman ended up doing a really good job on this play here. So again, we're right back in it. The question after that is, do you onside again or do you kick deep? We had about 3 or 4 minutes left to go in the game. about 5 minutes left to go in the game at this point. We're down by 3. The question again is, do you onside or kick it? And we felt it was kind of a discussion amongst our staff on what to do. So we decided to kick the ball off and make them go earn their yardage instead of giving them a good field position again. And
I liked the decision because I had the benefit of having Coach beside us and then Coach Lubner on the box beside us, and I could hear that conversation going on the whole time. And in my mind, I was agreeing with what y'all did because there's a lot of time left. You have all the momentum at that point in that game.
Right, and if we don't recover that, which is, again, onsides are hard to recover, right? So if you don't recover that momentum's kind of sucked out of you, that energy, that excitement, like you're saying, you're hitting it right on the head. And they got great field position. So the more plays we make them run, and as you can see, I think they started back on the 30, but they drive it through and get some good plays on us. But again, we're forcing it out of them. And then right here, you mentioned him earlier, Jimmy Glenn Zay, the two guys we mentioned earlier. Zay's back, gets a good rush, gets his hand up, and Jimmy does a great job of finding that ball and getting up there on it. And again, we're pretty excited. I like seeing Coach Valencia down here.
Yeah, it's fun
he's pretty excited about it and passionate.
And at this point, you've got a real chance to go take a lead in this ball game where when you're down 17 with 8 minutes to go, you're hoping you can, but the thought, the realistic chances of it happening are pretty slim.
Right, and yeah, right there. So we got that interception, and of course we don't have anything at the end. We had 2 other possessions there. We faltered out. We got the ball away. I didn't put a highlight on there, but I want to give Dennison Reed, who's a senior, a shout out. We were a little banged up, and he plays inside receiver for us, and his number was called on, to step up there and on a big 4th down, he got an out route. Dax threw a good ball, but he was ready to go. So another great example of a kid who just stayed the course. His journey hasn't always been easy. He's a big special teams player for us. Dennison made a huge tackle against Ashdown last year on the kid who signed with U of A down at the 1, and then we got a safety out of it. Anyway, the kid has done a great job just persevering through. Really proud of him. Like I said, we faltered out and turned over on downs on that possession. Again, I was really proud of our coaching staff and our kids because we didn't give up at that point. We got the ball back with about 20 plus seconds to go. We had 1 timeout at that point. So I was really proud because after we falter out in that, again, we're set up, we had that interception, about 3 minutes to go and, make something happen. It didn't happen.
Sure.
We could have quit. We could have gave up, coaches and players. And we did. We wanted to find a way to get that ball back. And like you said, you're talking about that conversation between coaches. We were kind of doing that same thing. Okay, how many timeouts do they have? Where do we need to get our stops here? How do I need to use my timeouts to where we can save enough time for us? Because again, we got one of the best kickers in the state.
Right.
So if we can get we're not afraid to go kick a 50-yard field goal at any point.
Especially a little bit of wind helping too.
Yeah, and so really proud that we did get one more possession and ended up didn't get anything out of it. But
I think that's a dynamic a common fan might not understand is it's not just a gut decision by Coach Bentley at that point. It's the whole staff of 7 people saying, hey, timeouts this, times this, don't forget we got high in the back end.
That's right.
I mean, it's not just, Coach Bentley saying, hey, we're going for it.
There's a lot of moving parts involved, and ultimately I'm the one that decides what to do. But man, I love our staff and having that aspect of it, and so many knowledgeable guys. I mean, I go to each one of them for different things, right? So, I think I was going back to Center Point last week, kind of talking about it, and I'm like, okay, Coach Lubner's a big math guy. So I'm like, all right, Coach Lubner, I don't know what the heck is going on in this, but figure out the math that we need to run this clock out, as far as the down and distance. And he gave me a spot on answer like that, and so,
it's a huge benefit to have that in your ear.
My headset, just kind of some insight, I know everybody likes to hear about it, but our headsets are on 2 different channels. So our defensive coaches are on one channel, our offensive coaches are on another channel. And with my headset, I can click between both. I can get confused sometimes, and coaches like to give me a hard time because I'll be like trying to talk to offense, and they're like, "Coach, you're on defense." I'm like, "Oh my gosh," and I'll be like, "All right, forget you guys," or whatever. I think I'm really blessed with the staff that we have, and like you're saying, I think you hit it spot on. We all are involved in these decisions, and I feel 100% confident talking to each other. And even if we may not agree on something, it's like, okay, the decision's made, we got each other's backs. And so,
at the end of the
really,
day,
really blessed to have the coaches that we do and the knowledge that they have and putting us in situations to help these kids win.
Well, just kind of, close up last week, I had one I wanted to ask you about personally, and it's kind of that whole decision of, hey, Coach Bentley's going to make the decisions, but the input of others. There was a 4th down call in the first half that I liked.
Yeah.
where you went for it on 4th and 2, and here was my perspective on air. You want to win every game. You dang sure want to beat your buddy. And my opinion, though, is this is a non-conference game. It's 4th and 2. Let's use this as a learning tool of, hey, what do I have? What kind of guts do we have? Can we go get that 2 yards? In a conference game, I'm not going to say you might not do that in negative territory, but in a non-conference game, you might be more apt to do that.
Yeah.
So on 4th and 2, I think it was late in the first quarter or early in the second quarter where you go for it, and they stop us. But kind of talk about that, the mental approach to that of, yes, it is a non-conference game. Does that have something to do with it a little bit there?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you're always building to who you want to be, right?
Sure.
Like exactly what you're saying, and that for us it was kind of a momentum thing because we started out so hot, and then they come down and score on us, and our first couple of plays really didn't go for it. So to me, it was a kind of a crucial point in that moment to where, like you said, I wanted to kind of the old saying is, well, if you can't get a yard, you don't deserve to get it, or don't deserve to win, or whatever, too. And of course, that didn't work out for us in that situation, but it's a learning moment for us, and we can go back now and figure out why that happened, And of course, Lincoln made a great play, so it's taking nothing away from that. But yeah, I mean that I think you build up to who you want to become, right? And you also don't want to shy away from a moment like that. I still trust those kids. I make that call 100 more times without any doubt. So. Again, it's an important decision to be made at that moment, and to me the biggest thing was a momentum. It was an opportunity for us to go back and to reestablish some momentum and some dominance there. And like I said, it didn't work, but then we get that chance to say, okay, we didn't get it. We got to move on. Defense, you got to go get a stop here. And so, those aren't always easy. I feel like we are a little more aggressive probably than your more traditional old school coach. But yeah, being in a non-conference situation like that and being early and it's a good learning opportunity for the boys.
Like I said, I think it's a good opportunity, one, to challenge your kids too.
Yeah,
like,
for
hey,
sure.
Let's put our hands in the dirt and let's go get this.
Let them know, hey, I mean, biggest thing there too is we believe in them.
For sure.
Still, even though and just because they didn't get it doesn't mean we don't believe in them. Like I said, I do it 100 more times, especially with everybody that was involved in those plays. And so, yeah, for sure, challenging the kids.
Well, come up short by 3 points. Non-conference game, does it kill you? Going into week 4, we've got Riverview. So I wanted to talk about this a little bit too. Was we've got 5 non-conference games.
Yeah,
so
crazy.
You're on the 4th one.
Yeah, crazy. And we only have 2 more away games. We play 6 home games this year.
I was gonna say we're on a 3-game stretch of being at home.
We'll be at home for I guess a month because we have a bye week after we play Riverview. But yeah, Riverview was another one. We're super lucky to fill a 10-game schedule because we had Genoa Central who dropped the whole conference in 8-man. Fountain Lake who dropped the whole conference in 8-man, and then dropped late. And so when and then we had a few other things, right? So we played Lafayette last year, and then they didn't want to play again this year, so we filled it with Falk later in the year. But we still had that one game, and I really wanted to get our kids 10 games. I felt like they deserved that, especially our seniors. And saw Riverview had an opening, and I didn't know the coach there. I didn't know him personally, and they were looking for a game. And I reached out to them, and they offered to come down here. We took it, and again, never played. I think we did stop off there. I think in 2019 or 2020. I think on the way to Gosnell or Truman, one of those. Okay. I can't quite point it, but we actually stopped there. It was a different coach at the time, but we stopped there and did a walkthrough, and so looking forward to that matchup. Again, a 4A opponent. They played in 4A2, and they made the playoffs. I think 4 out of the last 6 years.
Oh, so they had some good ball clubs in the past.
Yeah, and they got some pretty dangerous players as well. Really good running back and some good receivers, and they played hard. So it'll be a good matchup.
I was definitely no school history. I didn't think we'd played them ever before.
No, not that. I think this is the first matchup for sure between.
And that's neat.
Which Riverview's not an old school anyway. I think they've had.
It's in the Searcy area there.
Yeah, it's up there at Searcy. I think it maybe around 30 years old. I mean, the school in general, and so it's not a super old school. Great facilities though. Again, a team that's kind of on the rise. They're a young team as well. I talked to their coach, and of course we see the film and prep and do all that. But
yeah, I was kind of curious. I mean, it shows they're 0-4. They hadn't scored a whole lot on offense yet, but what you'd expect out of a young team.
Yeah, they've played some good teams, and you go back and you kind of watch the film and you go and okay, I can see they're young and the mistakes that they're making, but you also go, man, this guy right here, they might not have won this game, but this running back's making a lot of plays, and he's making a lot of plays, and this defense has made a big stop in this situation, and so they've struggled with some consistency too of putting together a full game, but they have some dangerous football players, and they practice just like we do too.
Sure, so. They're looking to win a game just like everybody else.
That's right.
I know we probably need to get close to closing this up, but I had a couple questions. Keys to win this week. What do you feel like you need to?
Yeah, we got to
execute
protect the football more. We've got to be more consistent. We have to clean up penalties. The penalty situation for us that's been huge. Something we talked about. Our kids are fully aware of that. We have to do a better job. We cannot give yards away. We have to be more consistent. We challenge our kids now. We want to start out each offensive possession and defensive possession. We haven't been consistent in the way that we may be consistent offensively, but then we're going to give up a touchdown right before half or any other which way. So consistency at the start of a quarter, at the start of a half, and at the end of the half is something we're still looking to do. And then of course we got to continue to create turnovers and limit them. And so those three areas for us are the focus.
Well, I don't know how much longer y'all typically would go on this deal or
you've
not.
Done a great job, man.
I think we've covered a lot. I think we covered last week.
I think we'll throw them a retirement party, and we'll bring them a cake and maybe just have a farewell tour for them.
I'm not so sure Talissa could handle him on Friday
night. You're right about that.
So all joking aside, Clint's awesome. Clint's been a huge part of this program for a long time, from the youth level up to the senior high level. I've had the benefit of being around a lot of these kids, with a nephew that's a sophomore, the group ahead of him being with those guys a long time. It's really a fun time to be a Bearcat right now. There's a lot of promise for the next 2 years, I would say.
There is, and I've talked about too. We are more experienced than what we were obviously last year. But how can you not be when we started as many sophomores? We're still a young team. We still have a lot of juniors that are in a new offensive scheme for us that we didn't do last year, and we still have some sophomores playing at some crucial positions. So. Our journey isn't going to consistently look like that. We're going to have some winding roads, and we hope by the end of the year we're there. But again, we're good enough that our two goals that we set before the year, which was finishing that top half of the conference, wherever that falls, and then making some noise in the playoffs, is right there for us. And,
sure.
And we hope to get that back on track starting out Friday night.
Yep, get back with a win. Well, we hope to see you Friday night at Mena. We'll be here for, I guess, like Coach said, we got 3 home games in a row. Bye week after this week, so after this next week we'll have 2 more home games. Yep. So hopefully you get a chance to come out and support the Bearcats. Should be a fun one. Weather's going to be great. Like I said, I appreciate you having me, Coach, and
yes, sir.
we'll see you Friday night.